Hello and welcome back to TeaBookClub. TeaBookClub is a group of people from around the world. We read a book every 2 months on tea, and we meet up at the end of the first month to have a social meetup where we talk about a theme of the book, or like this book we're currently reading, when the authors came and joined us and we were able to ask them questions about their tea story. At the end of the second month, we meet up for a discussion on the book. So we share our thoughts on the book, what we learned from it, what we got, things we found interesting or discovered. This current book that we're reading at the moment is Tales of the Tea Trade by Michelle and Rob Comins. Now, Michelle and Rob Comins, they have Comins Tea House, which is in Bath in the UK and also in Dorset, and it's just the loveliest little place. The book is their tea travels, their tea story, the people they've met, the places they've been, and it's so personal, and you get to actually meet these people that they've met around the world in different tea producing countries. So we've been thoroughly enjoying it, and if you would like to join us for our next meetup when we discuss the book, then hop onto one of the links below, join TeaBookClub on Instagram or teabookclub.org, and you can find out more and see you at the end of the month to discuss. Every week I do a 5-minute reading from the book, and this people find really great that they can just kind of tap in, see where I've got up to, join a little bit. Some people like to listen along while they read the same passage. Others find it useful if, for example, they've joined late and haven't got the book yet, then they can get a feel for the book and know where they want to pick up and read when the book does arrive. So that's the idea of the 5-minute readings. I'm going to read from the book today for 5 minutes, and I'm starting on page 100, chapter South Korea. Korea sits below China and is separated from Japan by the Korean Strait and Sea of Japan. With such influential neighbours, it's no surprise that Korea's tea history is entwined with theirs, and that Buddhism again takes a central place. It is said that tea first reached what is now North and South Korea back in 108 BC, when the country was known as Gojoseon. At this time, the Han Chinese took over the country, influencing every aspect of indigenous culture, including the introduction of tea. Tea did not become fully established until the 6th or 7th centuries, in the middle of the Three Kingdoms period, which corresponds with the Chinese Tang dynasty, 618 to 907. At this time, Korea's monks and scholars were visiting the growing number of Chinese schools of Buddhism, where they were introduced to tea drinking traditions long established in China. Various tea monarchs took to tea, but it wasn't until 828, during the reign of King Hyongdok, 826 to 836, that the order was given to bring tea seeds from China for cultivation. Although probably not the first to be planted in the country, they were sown at the Sangye Temple in Jiri Mountain in Hadong County. Tea culture thrived during the Goryeo dynasty, 918 to 1392, as rich aristocrats increased the popularity of tea drinking, and Buddhist monasteries promoted the benefits of the rituals behind it. The development of mental discipline and the contemplation that came with this became highly valued. King Taejo, the first ruler of this period, gave gifts of tea, acha, to worthy people such as Buddhist priests and monks and members of the military. Tea was also given as a reward for loyalty, or even in death or illness. Tea became important to all classes of the population, unlike in China and Japan, and this reflected its use. Offering tea to the spirits of natural places or those of your ancestors became popular. These so-called Cha-Rie ancestral ceremonies happened at New Year and during the full harvest moon. Less formal offerings were made to statues of Buddha in temples. Tea also began to be placed with the dead as part of funeral ceremonies. The growing demand meant that teaware production also developed, resulting in the start of celadon, greenware, pottery. Tea also became an intrinsic part of poetry, song, art and drama, and some of the oldest poems involved tea. The popularity of tea stopped with the Joseon dynasty and the seizing of power by the Yi family. They implemented a change from Buddhism to a variant of Chinese Confucianism, resulting in an end to Buddhist ceremonies and the destruction of many monasteries. The association of drinking tea with Buddhism led to hefty government tax on the plant, the destruction of many tea fields, and the widespread replacement of of tea by wine as the formal drink. The purge was so severe that some accounts indicate that tea disappeared completely from the ruling classes at this time. Certainly the first great Korean written text on tea, the Cha'abu, or Rhapsody to Tea by Yi Mok in 1490, did not even mention Korean tea, but focused on Chinese tea entirely. Again, it was Buddhist monks who ensured tea culture was kept alive through this time, although oddly there may also have been a royal department responsible for tea. The situation was only to get worse, as the few tea fields left in the southern provinces were destroyed in the Seven-Year War with Japan, 1592-8, along with the massive destruction of Korea's settlements and farmland. To rub further salt in the wound, many of the skilled craftspeople and potters were exiled to Japan after the war. Korea's loss was Japan's gain, as this surge of knowledge was absorbed and utilised. There was a slight resurgence in the late 1800s thanks to a returning interest in Buddhist ways, but sadly this growth was again set to be disturbed. The Japanese occupation 1910-45, World War II, and the Korean War 1950-3 all inflicted further destruction on an already fragile industry. However, from then until now, there have not been any significant hurdles preventing the rebuilding of Korea's tea culture. By the 1960s, when tea agriculture had begun to grow again, farmers were growing tea as a business rather than for religious purposes. This marked a distinct change. One man, Chaoi Pom-sul, later the Venerable Hyo Dang, was a driving force in this restoration. Head monk of the Dasol-sa temple in the Jiri Mountains, he wrote the first comprehensive modern study of tea in Korea, Hangyukyu Chado, the Korean Way of Tea, in 1973. He founded the Korean Association for the Way of Tea to promote the understanding and study of all aspects of his country's tea. Hyeodang is known for a particular green tea processing method still used to produce Panyaro, or the dew of enlightening wisdom. Unsurprisingly, he also had a part to play in the teaching of all the modern tea masters who are continuing his work on the revival of Korean tea. If you enjoyed that and you want to discover more, which I certainly do, because Korean tea is something that I have very limited knowledge of, and in fact I think it's something that a lot of people, we don't find it very often, and it's not something that you come across. So I'm really looking forward to this chapter and discovering more and learning more about Korean tea. If you'd like to join us and share your thoughts, we meet at the end of the month for our discussion. You can find out more and get involved by heading to TeaBookClub.org or join TeaBookClub on Instagram, and the links are below. Thank you.